Let's discuss on the topic women's rights in Islam. According to the Oxford Dictionary, women's rights are legal, economic and social rights equal to those of men. Before we look into women's rights in Islam, we need to put aside the modern categorical statements regarding how a life should be led by the women. You must check your intellect before believing by what others say. Because many a times our mind can go astray. As there was a time when great scholars of that time thought the light of the moon is its own light. But now we know that the light of the moon is the reflected light from the sun. Similarly, if you place your conclusion by how the media mostly portrays women's right in Islam, there is a possibility you may feel that women's right in Islam are subjugated. Today 20 to 25% of the world population are Muslims. Some Muslim societies are near to the teachings of Islam, while some Muslim societies are far away from the teachings of Islam. So if a person wants to judge the women's rights in Islam, they should not judge it by looking at what Muslims do or what the Muslim society does. They should judge it based on the authentic sources of Islam. The authentic sources of Islam are the Quran and the authentic Hadith. The Quran is the last and final revelation of God. The authentic Hadith is the teachings of Islam's final messenger, Prophet Muhammad. Now, we will look into women's right in Islam based on the above-mentioned authentic sources. I have broadly divided the topic of women's rights in Islam into 6 categories. 1. The spiritual rights of women in Islam. 2. The economic rights of women in Islam. 3. The social rights of women in Islam. 4. The educational rights of women in Islam. 5. The legal rights of women in Islam, and 6. The political rights of women in Islam. There are several verses in the Quran and in the authentic Hadiths to explain these categories in detail. But to make it easy to understand, I will try explain each category with just one or more verses. First, we will look into the spiritual rights of the women in Islam. Paradise is only meant for men is a common misconception among the non-Muslims about Islam. This misconception can be easily clarified by the verses of the Quran. Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 124 says, "If a man or woman has faith and does good deeds, they will surely enter heaven and no injustice shall be done to them." By reading the above verse, we come to know that the spiritual duties of men and women in Islam are the same. So as a woman, it's her right to enter paradise by believing in Allah and doing good deeds. Let's now look into the economic rights of the women in Islam. In Islam, a woman is financially secure. Before her marriage, it's the responsibility of the father and her brother to look after her. After her marriage, it's the responsibility of her husband and her son to look after her. In Surah Nisa chapter number 4, verse number 34 it's mentioned. Men are the caretakers of women and it's their responsibility to support them financially. Further, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 4 says, "Give to the women you are going to marry a dowry as a gift." During marriage, the bride will receive gift in the form of money or possession from the groom. The name of this gift given by the bridegroom is called mahr. Furthermore, in Islam, a woman is allowed to inherit. Its details are mentioned in Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 11 and 12. And, women need not spend their share of inherited wealth or the money they earn on the family. Because it's the responsibility of the men to take care of them financially. Hence, in Islam the woman is financially secure. There are also certain rules a woman should follow if she wants to earn money by working. But that is a different topic. So as a woman it is her right to be provided with financial assistance by the man. Now let's look into the social rights of the women in Islam. I have further divided the social rights of women in Islam into 4 subcategories. One. The rights of the daughter in Islam. 2. The rights of the wife in Islam. 3. The rights of the mother in Islam, and 4. The rights of the sister in Islam. First, we'll look into the rights of the daughter in Islam. Surah Nahl chapter number 16, verse number 58 and 59 says, "Those who think that the birth of a female child is a disgrace, or those who think to kill her, their judgment is evil." There is an authentic hadith in Sunan Ibn Majah hadith number 3670. Their Prophet Muhammad said, "Any man who raises 2 daughters with love and affection, shall enter paradise." So is the daughter, it's her right to be raised with good care and affection by her parents. Now, we will look into the rights of the wife in Islam. Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 21 says, "Marriage is a sacred contract between the husband and the wife." And according to Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 19, the permission of the bride is compulsory for the marriage. Furthermore, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 19 says, "Treat your wife with kindness even if you dislike her." So as a wife, it's her right to be treated as an equal life partner by her husband. Now, let's look into the rights of the mother in Islam. Surah Isra chapter number 17 verse number 23 says, "Don't even say oof to your parents." Further, in Surah Annam chapter number 6 verse number 151 says, "Be kind to your parents." There is an authentic hadith in the book of Jihad hadith number 3106. There the Prophet Muhammad has said, "Paradise lies beneath the feet of your mother." So as the mother, it's her right to be treated with more love and compassion by her children. Now, let's look into the rights of a sister in Islam. Surah Tawbah chapter number 9 verse number 71 says, "The believing men and women are supporters to one another. They should encourage each other in doing good deeds, paying zakat, fasting and obeying Allah and His Messenger. And they should also encourage each other to forbid evil." That means even if the believing men and women are not related to one another, they should socially support each other like a brother and sister. So as a sister, it's her right to be provided with social support by her brother. Now, let's discuss the educational rights of women in Islam. The first guidance revealed by Allah to the whole of humankind in the Quran, it was not about salah or charity or fasting. But it was about Iqra. Iqra means to read, to proclaim, to repeat. The Quran says this in Surah Iqra chapter number 96, verse number 1. So first guidance given by Allah in the Quran, it was to read. It was meant to both male and female. Further, an authentic hadith from Ibn Majah hadith number 224 says, "It is obligatory on every Muslim man or woman to acquire education." And if we read Sahih Bukhari, we come to know that Prophet Muhammad dedicated special time to educate only the women. He also sent Sahabas to especially educate the women. Because of this, even during the days of ignorance, there are several examples of great women who were scholars. The best example is Aisha bint Abi Bakr. She has taught more than 88 different scholars, and more than 2,210 hadiths are narrated on her authority. Another example is Salma, who was considered as the most intellectual woman and learned woman. Another example is Fatima bint Qais, who was considered as a very knowledgeable woman. Another example is Safiya, who was considered as the most intellectual woman. Another example is Sulaim, who was considered as an authority and as an intelligent woman. Another example is Sayyida Nafisa, who taught many scholars including Imam Shafi. Another example is Aisha bint Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, who taught many scholars including Imam Malik. At that time people were rarely educated. But yet in Islam we saw several examples of women who were great scholars. So as a woman, it's her right to be provided with education by her parents, brothers or guardian. Now, let's discuss the legal rights of the women in Islam. In Islam, legally men and women are equal. According to the law of equality known as qisas, mentioned in Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 178 and 179 says, "Punishment is same for both of them for the same crime. For example, if a man kills a woman, that man is sentenced to death, and if a woman kills a man, that woman is sentenced to death. Further, Surah Maida chapter number 5 verse number 38 says, if a thief is proven guilty, whether it's a man or woman, their hand should be cut off. Further, Surah Nur chapter number 24 verse number 2 says, if a fornicator is proven guilty, whether it's a man or a woman, they should receive 100 whips as punishment. Further, Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 282 indicates, women has the right to be a witness. Further, Surah Nur chapter number 24 verse number 4 says, if someone lays an allegation against the chastity and modesty of a woman and does not bring 4 witnesses, give them 80 whips as punishment. This is how Islam protects dignity of a woman legally. So as a woman, it's her right to be dignified and treated equally by the law. Now, let's discuss the political rights of the women in Islam. To explain the political authority of women in Islam, I will narrate an incident happened during the regime of Umar, who was the second caliphate of Islam. It's mentioned in Musannaf Abd-al-Razzaq 10420. During a discussion regarding the mahr in the masjid, Umar asked the women not to demand mahr in very high quantity from the men for marriage. At that time, a lady from the last row of the masjid objected to this. And she referred Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 20. And she asked, when Allah has not placed an upper limit on mahr, why would Umar ask them to place an upper limit? On hearing this, Umar, the second caliphate of Islam, agreed what he said was wrong and immediately withdrew his statement. From the above example, we can see that an ordinary woman from the last row of the masjid objected to the breach of constitution, and it was immediately acknowledged. So as a woman, it's her right to present her opinion to the ruler. So far, we have seen all the categories regarding the women's rights in Islam from the authentic sources. The above discussion was a short explanation regarding the women's rights in Islam. Now you would have realized that in Islam women have a lot of privileges. As men and women are different physiologically, psychologically, biologically and physically. Based on these differences, Allah has set duties for them. Some duties are identical, some duties are not identical. In some duties men have more advantage, in others women have more advantage. Hence Allah gives same duties and different duties to men and women depending upon their similarity and differences. So that they may live together in harmony and peace. That's the reason if you analyze the women's rights in Islam based on Quran and authentic Hadith. You will logically agree that the women in Islam, they are protected and they are not subjugated. May peace and mercy of Allah be upon all the persons I mentioned above. All praise is for Allah, who is the Lord of all worlds.